Hello, everyone. In this chapter, we will briefly discuss on one of the major social institutions in sociology, which is the institutions of family. While discussing this issue, we will point out certain dynamics that are commonly referred to in explaining family from sociological point of view. In this context, we will briefly discuss on historical states of family and influences of industrializations as well as urbanizations on family. Following this, we will look at the definitions of family types according to certain characteristics and settlements place in modern Turkey. Then we will turn our attention to changes in divorce rates in modern Turkey and consequences of the patriarchal obstacles in accessing education and employment. And lastly, we will going to discuss on adolescent marriage, fertility, and domestic violence in Turkey. The history of the family institution in Turkey can be examined mainly in three different eras. The first era is the family in pre-Islamic period. The second era is the Ottoman family era, and the third era is the family after the establishment of the modern republic, modern Turkey. According to the classification of classical sociologist of the Turkish society, Ziya Gökalp, Turkish family has passed through four states. There's tribe, fireplace, mansion, and nest. The tribe families were seen in the clan stage, and the fireplace families were seen as the ethnic community stage, and the konak families were seen in the religious community, which is called ümmet stage, and lastly, the nest families were seen in the nation state. Looking at the influences of industrialization and urbanization on family, we should first of all note that the industrialization resulted in mass migration from rural to the urban areas. Obviously, we should also note that the industrialization also accelerated urbanization process. When people migrated to urban areas with the purpose of finding work, the traditional extended families were split and the number of nuclear families increases. This is in fact a universal pattern that have not only emerged in industrialization process of Turkey, but in the entire world as well. This process in Turkey weakened the ties between the kins, and influences of kin over individuals declined during this process. As a consequence of the industrialization, the functions of the extended families such as education, production, and protection were transferred to the modern social institutions in the industrial cities, such as schools, factories, or business organizations. Therefore, we can argue that the functions of the family have been narrowed and the dependence of the individuals on their families reduced. With the transfer of production from family unity to modernized productions units, namely to the factories, the family lost its status in the process of production. As a result, the economic burden of children increased and the economic value of children decreased. On the other hand, the emotional value of children have increased in this process. In addition to this, in this process, employment of women empowered women themselves in terms of many aspects and created a new types of the authority as well as power possibilities, which are different than the authority and power provided by the motherhood. The number of children decreased, and children in these transforming families, regardless of their sex, gender, began to be socialized in a more egalitarian and democratic as well as independent manner. According to the household compositions and authority, we can point out four main types of family in Turkey. These are can be pointed out as traditional extended families, temporary extended families, nuclear families, and broken family. Looking at the characteristic of these families, we can see particular features for each of these families. For example, in traditional extended families, the male head of the family lives together with his wife, married sons, and their wives. This feature of the traditional family is a distinctive characteristic of it vis-a-vis other family types. Looking at the temporary extended families, we can see that these families consist of husband, wife, and unmarried children or parents of those children living together in one single house. The nuclear family simply consists of parents and their children. On the other hand, broken family occurs with the divorce, death, or a leave of one of the parents. The broken family consists of children with single parents. According to the settlement place, we can also point out four main types of family in Turkey, and these can be counted as village families, town families, urban families, and slum, in Turkish word gecekondu, families. Rural family can be considered as a form of the patriarchal family in which the father has the ultimate authority over the household. Town family is a particular form of the family that is a form of family between rural and urban families. Urban families are different from the rural and town families in terms of size of the family member, and they are usually composed of mother, father, and their children, such as nuclear family. The functions of the urban families are fewer than those of the rural families, if they are compared. As you may also know, in urbanized social environments, modern institutions perform the functions such as education and employment, which are the functions of the family in the rural environments. Slum families partly demonstrate the characteristics of rural family in terms of the authority and the figure of fatherhood. But in terms of the settlement place, it also resembles to the urban family to a certain extent. Although these families, slum families, are usually living periphery of the cities, their settlement is still in an urbanized area. In this place of settlement, namely in the periphery of the cities, these families still carry out some rural traditions, but they also continue to preserve some rural traditions as well. When we look at the divorce rates in Turkey, we can see that these rates have rapidly increased, especially in the last decades. The rate of the divorced people among the whole population was less than 1% in 1930s. However, at the beginning of the 21st century, this rate increased approximately 4%, which is quite high. A striking statistical fact illustrates that between 2001 and 2017, the divorce rate has doubled. Such a huge increase in divorce rate particularly gained pace at the beginning of the 21st century due to major changes in norms and the value systems, as well as the various other factors, of course. However, as one of the main reasons for the increase in divorce rates, we can point out certain dynamics, certain factors. Among these, we can underline 6 main dynamics. Namely, these are the changing meaning of the marriage, increasing employment rates and family patterns, economic independence of the families, decline in negative attitudes towards the divorced people in society, change in the law, which resulted in divorce to be faster, easier, and less expensive, increasing secularization process in the values of society, in the normative understanding of good life of the society, and the increase in the number of nuclear families. When we look at the patriarchal obstacles in women's ability to find out a place in education and employment, we see that the women and men are not still equally independent actors of family life in Turkey. First of all, patriarchy can be considered as a form of social structure in which men dominate, oppress, and exploit the resources and how they should be used. It can be considered as a form of male domination or a form of power relation between men and women, where the male partner dominates the female partner. Since the patriarchal norms regard wifehood and motherhood as major jobs of women, many women are completely or partly hindered from having education. Many families think that education is unnecessary for women because they wouldn't work in paid jobs. This notion of life within the household leads to important inequalities in accessing education for women. When women are poorly educated, they cannot gain the skills required in the labor market, and therefore they are excluded from the labor market or have to work in unskilled or low-paying jobs. At the end of such a process of discrimination, they can't earn good rates or get the other social benefits of working, such as compensations, paid leaves, and so forth. Even if women get education, there are fewer women in many professional jobs today. And even when women succeed to have good jobs, their rates are still lower than men, and despite the fact that they do the same work. In this frame, for many women, marriage and family are the only way to survive, rather than a happy union. Adolescent marriage, fertility, and domestic violence in modern Turkey. When we look at the definitions of the adolescent marriage, we see that it's a particular form of marriage under the age of 18. The main reasons of the adolescent marriage are usually counted as poverty and traditional forms of living with patriarchal cultural acceptances. By 2015, still one of the every 7 married females is under 18. The great majority of approximately 90% of people who get married under 18 are still girls, females. The negative consequences of adolescent marriage on women are barrier to personal development, education, health, and health problems. We can also point out social isolation and domestic violence as barriers too. In Turkey, adolescent fertility has decreased in recent decades. This is a quite important success. In 2001, women who gave birth under the age of 18 were 4%. This rate decreased to the 1.6% in 2013. Domestic violence is another domain of problem in Turkey and actually in the entire globe. It can be defined as a type of violence of one partner over another in the marriage or dating relationship. Domestic violence may take the forms of physical, sexual, emotional, or a form of economic abuse. It can also reveal itself in the form of threats or isolation. Okay, let's make a brief summary of the chapter. This chapter mainly focused on one of the major social institutions of our everyday life, which is family. In sociology, family is not only considered as a form of a simple form of union, but it is considered as a form of social institution, which reveals people's way of living and help us to understand economic, social, and cultural norms, attitudes, values, and so forth. This chapter of the book mainly focuses on family in Turkey, and it starts this discussion, first of all, looking at the historical states of family and influences of industrialization, as well as urbanization process on family. Following this, it provides various definitions of family according to certain characteristics and settlement of place in modern Turkey. Then it turns to discuss on changes in divorce rates in modern Turkey, as well as consequences of patriarchal obstacles in accessing education and employment. This chapter lastly shed a light on the issues of adolescent marriage, fertility rates, and the domestic violence, which are discussed in relation to statistical facts in Turkey. Thank you to join me today.